In her high-rise apartment in San Francisco, Elizabeth Collins was concentrating on a project with an approaching deadline. Facing multiple design proposals spread across her desk, she was examining the details with a keen eye. Outside the window, the sun was setting over San Francisco Bay, its orange light gently illuminating her workspace. Elizabeth had established a solid reputation in the web design industry. With her creative talent and practical skills, her client list ranged from small local businesses to large international corporations. However, despite her professional success, her relationship with her family had always been complicated. "Liz, have you thought about Christmas presents for next week?" The phone suddenly rang. It was her mother, Carol. Elizabeth let out a small sigh as she put the phone to her ear. Her mother was a woman who always wore perfect hairstyles and expensive jewelry, never missing an opportunity to flaunt her social status. "Not yet. I'm busy with a big project deadline right now," Elizabeth answered. "Oh, always the same. You can't be happy just focusing on work," Carol immediately replied. "Anyway, would you like to have dinner with Brenda and me on Christmas Eve? Let's get together as a family for once." Brenda, Elizabeth's sister. She lived off her mother's financial support and occasional modeling jobs instead of finding stable work. With her beautiful blonde hair and perfect figure, Brenda was the ideal daughter in her mother's eyes. "All right," Elizabeth answered with some hesitation. Time with family always brought complicated emotions, but she couldn't ignore blood ties. The Christmas season was also a time when she remembered her late father, Robert. Her father was the one who bought Elizabeth her first computer when she was 10. "You have a special talent," he would often say. Robert, who ran a construction company, was a strict but fair father. He was the only one in the family who truly understood Elizabeth's worth. When he suddenly died of a heart attack 5 years ago, Elizabeth felt like she had lost her greatest supporter. During her student days, Elizabeth began taking on small jobs using her web design talents. She paid her own tuition with that income while also providing an emergency fund for her family. Carol's car repairs, Brenda's unexpected dental bills, and countless small loans that were rarely repaid. Elizabeth graduated from college and gradually built her own client base. The quality of her work spread by word of mouth, and requests increased. Particularly impressive was a request from her college friend, Richard Bradshaw. Richard had just opened an upscale French restaurant called La Maison in San Francisco's financial district. The location was prime, but customer traffic hadn't picked up as much as expected during the initial opening. "Liz, could I borrow your skills?" Richard asked. "I need a website and online marketing strategy." Elizabeth accepted Richard's request and developed a sophisticated website and effective social media strategy. Within just 3 months, La Maison was fully booked and became a hotspot among local food enthusiasts. Richard expressed his deep gratitude and suggested, "I'd like to continue working together as business partners." It was a moment of recognition for Elizabeth's work. But her relationship with her family remained unchanged. Her success was never a topic of family conversation. Instead, Carol and Brenda's latest shopping achievements and social events were always the focus. The cell phone on her desk rang again. It was a text message from Brenda. "Having dinner with Mommy at a fancy restaurant on Christmas Eve. You're coming, right? Wear something nice." Elizabeth smiled slightly. With a small hope that something might change, she replied simply, "Of course, I'll be there." On Christmas Eve, the streets of San Francisco were glowing with festive lights. People walking by were smiling, storefront windows were decorated for Christmas, and carol singers could be heard from somewhere. Elizabeth stepped out of a taxi and stood in front of La Maison. The restaurant's exterior was understated yet refined, with a small elegant Christmas tree decorating the entrance. Elizabeth took a deep breath and entered confidently. For this special night, she had chosen a simple yet elegant black dress. Around her neck sparkled the pearl necklace her father Robert had given her upon her college graduation. "Reservation for Collins," the receptionist smiled. "Your party has already arrived." Elizabeth was guided by the waiter to a premium window seat at the back of the restaurant. There sat her mother Carol and sister Brenda, already sipping champagne. "Liz, finally you're here," Carol greeted her daughter with a light kiss. Her luxurious emerald earrings swayed with her movements. "We've been waiting for 30 minutes. I'm sorry, work ran late." Elizabeth began, but Brenda interrupted. "Work on Christmas Eve." Brenda was wearing a golden dress, drawing attention with her perfect makeup and hairstyle. "I would never do that." Elizabeth sat down without saying anything. Appetizers were already on the table. Foie gras tranche, blini with caviar, something with truffles. Elizabeth noticed they were all the most expensive items on the menu. "You've already ordered?" she asked, somewhat surprised. "Yes, I would have died waiting for you," Carol said, then instructed the waiter, "Another bottle of champagne." Elizabeth opened the menu and quietly looked through it. Seeing the prices, she inwardly gasped. Though La Maison was her friend's restaurant, it wasn't the kind of place she normally frequented. "I'll have the salad and Dover sole," Elizabeth told the waiter. "Just that?" Carol raised an eyebrow. "It's Christmas, why not be more extravagant?" "This is enough for me," Elizabeth answered quietly. As the meal progressed, the conversation was dominated by Carol and Brenda's updates. Carol enthusiastically talked about her new friends at the golf club, while Brenda detailed her recent shopping achievements and party plans. "I'm going on a ski trip to Aspen next month. I was able to borrow Michael Baker's villa," Brenda boasted proudly. "We're taking his private jet. Can you believe it?" Elizabeth listened with a smile, but neither of them once asked about her work or life. "By the way, I was organizing some of Dad's photos and found a nice one," Elizabeth tried to change the subject. "It's of Dad and me from my college days. Would you like to see it?" Carol waved her hand dismissively. "Not now." "Speaking of which, Brenda, how's that closet renovation coming along?" A small pain shot through Elizabeth's heart. It was always the same. The topic of her father was consistently avoided and ignored. She silently reached for her wine glass. After the main course, dessert time arrived. When the waiter brought an elegant dessert cart, Carol's eyes lit up. "Oh, we'll have the crème brûlée and chocolate soufflé," she said immediately. Brenda added several more desserts to the order. Elizabeth requested only coffee. When the desserts were served, Carol suddenly turned to Elizabeth. Beneath her sweet smile lurked something calculating. "Liz," she called in a sweet voice. "I was thinking about Christmas." Elizabeth leaned forward slightly. It was rare for her mother to say something sentimental about important family time. "This year," Carol continued. She smirked. "I don't need a present. Just pay the bill." Elizabeth's expression froze. "That's right," Brenda joined in, laughing. "You're lucky. You get to be Santa." The two exchanged laughter and began eating their desserts. As if they had said nothing unusual. Anger welled up in Elizabeth's chest. It was always the same. She was always the family's convenient wallet. When bill time approached, they always found some reason to make her pay. Birthday parties, Mother's Day dinners, and now Christmas too. But tonight, something was different. As Elizabeth touched her father's pearls, something broke inside her. And at the same time, something grew stronger. She slowly opened her handbag and took out her cell phone. Her mother and sister were still wearing self-satisfied smiles, pleased with their witty suggestion. "Please connect me with the owner," Elizabeth said to the waiter in a quiet but determined voice. Carol's smile vanished. Brenda's hand froze. "What are you?" Carol began, the color draining from her face. Brenda looked equally pale. Under the elegant lighting of the restaurant, tension suddenly mounted. Seeing Elizabeth's serious expression, the waiter slightly bowed his head. "Of course. Please wait a moment." As he left, a heavy silence fell over the table. Carol, touching her pearl necklace with her palm, showed the first signs of uneasiness. "Why are you calling the owner?" She changed her tone, pretending to be confused. "Is there a problem?" Elizabeth quietly folded her arms and looked straight into her mother's eyes. There has been a problem for a long time. I've just been silent until now. Brenda forced a laugh, trying to lighten the situation. Come on, don't be so serious. It was just a little joke. We were just joking because you always pay. A joke? Elizabeth asked calmly. A joke that's been going on for years? Carol looked around, checking if other guests could hear them. She straightened her posture, trying to regain control. Let's not discuss family matters here. It's very inappropriate, she whispered. What are you thinking, calling the owner? Before Elizabeth could answer, a man in a smart navy suit appeared from the back of the restaurant. It was Richard Bradshaw. Liz, he called out warmly, approaching Elizabeth. I didn't know you were coming on Christmas Eve. What a surprise. Elizabeth stood up and exchanged a brief hug with Richard. Richard, let me introduce you. This is my mother, Carol, and my sister, Brenda. Richard politely turned to the two women. It's an honor to meet you. Liz has talked about her family often. Carol and Brenda's expressions showed a mix of shock and confusion. Their eyes darted back and forth between Elizabeth and Richard. You are the owner? Carol asked with an incredulous expression. Yes, Richard answered with a smile. Liz and I have been friends since college. I can say without exaggeration that this restaurant wouldn't have succeeded without her help. Brenda quickly changed her pose, putting on a charming smile. What a lovely coincidence. We're so proud of Liz, she attempted a sudden change of direction. Elizabeth sat back down and took a slow sip of her coffee. Richard, there's something I want to talk about, she said quietly. This happens every time. Whenever we go out for a family meal, somehow I always end up paying. Richard nodded understandingly and looked toward Carol and Brenda. His expression remained polite, but his eyes showed sternness. Actually, Mrs. Collins, Richard began gently. Would you like to see the record of what Liz has been paying for you all these years? Carol froze for a moment. What do you mean? Richard took a smartphone from his pocket and operated it. Just looking at my restaurant alone, Liz has paid over $15,000 in meal expenses for the past 3 years. Family birthdays, anniversaries, and other gatherings. All on her credit card. That can't be true, Carol objected, but her voice lacked conviction. Do you really not know how much I've paid? Elizabeth gave a bitter smile. Brenda's college textbooks, your dental treatment, summer vacations, even the flowers for Aunt Edith's funeral. That's family. It's natural to help each other, Carol began to make excuses. Help each other? Elizabeth's voice finally showed emotion. You've never helped me once. I paid my own college tuition and managed my own apartment rent. Since Dad passed away, I've even been supporting your luxurious lifestyle. Brenda tried to speak but couldn't find the words. She lowered her gaze, poking at her dessert. Richard gently placed his hand on Elizabeth's shoulder. Liz, I want to tell your family something. He turned to face them. Thanks to Elizabeth, La Maison's sales increased 30% compared to last year. The website and marketing strategy she created are among the best in the industry. Carol and Brenda listened in silence. For the first time, they were hearing about the importance of Elizabeth's work. Therefore, Richard continued with a smile, today's meal is my gift. As a token of gratitude to Elizabeth. Without her, this restaurant would not have been this successful. Carol's face turned red. She tried to say something, but it was taking time to understand the situation. Richard, a wealthy and successful businessman, was praising Elizabeth's talent and contribution. Someone else highly valued the daughter she had always underestimated. Brenda looked anxiously at her mother. Their plan had completely backfired. Instead of gaining financial benefit, they were now in an embarrassing position. Thank you, Richard, Elizabeth said calmly. But today's issue isn't just about one meal. She turned back to her family. For years, I've been your convenient wallet. Since Dad died, it's gotten even worse. I've been supporting your wasteful habits all this time. That's not true. Carol defensively retorted. You're successful, so isn't it natural to help your family? Richard quietly shook his head. Elizabeth's success is the result of her own effort. She's talented, diligent, and trusted by her clients. It's a shame you can't see her value. Carol was at a loss for words. For the first time in years, she was forced to see her daughter from a different perspective. Elizabeth quietly continued. Do you remember Dad? He always believed in my talent. While you and Brenda were ignoring me, Dad was always by my side. For a moment, a shadow of sadness crossed the table. Robert Collins's presence was strongly felt despite his absence. Dad believed in me until the end, Elizabeth continued. After his death, I found out that Dad had established a trust fund for me. Without telling anyone. Carol looked up with a startled face. Robert did? I've heard nothing about this. Check with lawyer Marcus Johnson, Elizabeth replied. Dad left it for me, for when you might need it someday. Now I'm investing it in my own business. The air in the room grew heavier. Carol was beginning to feel that her position was in jeopardy. The support from her daughter that she had relied on for years might no longer be a given. Richard turned gently toward Elizabeth. Liz, about that partnership we discussed, I'd like to formally propose it. I think your web design company and my restaurant group can grow together. He turned back to Carol and Brenda. Elizabeth's talent is real. She should know her worth, and those around her should respect it too. Mother and sister sat in silence. For the first time, they were at a loss for words, forced to see Elizabeth for who she truly was. Silence dominated the table. Elizabeth took a deep breath, organizing emotions she had suppressed for years. What she felt now wasn't anger or sadness, but a sense of liberation. The liberation of finally speaking the truth. I've wanted to say this for so long, she began in a calm voice. It's the same every time. Christmas, birthdays, Mother's Day. You always expect me to pay. Not just that. My time, my emotions, even my life have been used to suit your convenience. Carol straightened her posture, trying to regain some dignity. Elizabeth, you're exaggerating. Family helps each other. I raised you, gave you an education. Elizabeth gently interrupted her mother. I paid for my education with scholarships and my own work. Don't you remember I started web design jobs in my freshman year of college? Back then, you said computers won't make money. Carol opened her mouth but said nothing. In her memory, her daughter's success had always been sudden and due to her contribution and guidance. But now, cracks were beginning to appear in that narrative. I didn't grow up in a wealthy home, Elizabeth continued. Dad had a construction company, but during my teenage years, business was bad, and finances were always tight. Still, Dad believed in my talent. My first computer was a used one he bought for me. Brenda shifted uncomfortably in her seat. This family history was quite different from the luxurious upbringing she told her friends about. There's something you don't know, Elizabeth continued. The last thing Dad said to me was, live your own life. Don't live for someone else. But I couldn't keep those words. I couldn't escape the guilt and sense of obligation to you both. Richard gazed at Elizabeth, feeling deep respect for her determination. He quietly said, Carol, I've witnessed Elizabeth's talent firsthand. Thanks to her designs and marketing strategies, my business has doubled. It's truly a shame you can't see her value. Carol started to make excuses, but swallowed her words, pressured by Richard's gentle yet firm gaze. On the table, more than half of the expensive desserts remained. The champagne had gone cold. The festive atmosphere of Christmas Eve had disappeared under the weight of truth. What do you want? Brenda asked in a serious voice for the first time. Her eyes showed an expression of seeing her sister's true self for the first time. Elizabeth stared back at her sister. When they were young, they had certainly been close sisters. But the age difference and their mother's favoritism had pulled them apart. Still, there was a blood connection. I won't provide money anymore, Elizabeth said clearly. I intend to live my own life. And I want you both to take responsibility for your own lives. But how will we? Brenda began and stopped. For the first time, she had to admit that their lifestyle had largely depended on her sister's support. Brenda, Elizabeth said gently. You have talent and education. If you really try, you can find your own path. You can't be the beautiful Collins daughter forever. Carol quietly wiped away tears. Her perfect makeup was beginning to crumble. Elizabeth, are you really abandoning us? At those words, pain shot through Elizabeth's chest. This was her mother's ultimate weapon. Guilt. She had given in to this tactic many times before. But tonight was different. Mom, I love you, she said sincerely. I have no intention of abandoning you. But I won't accept being exploited anymore. I want to build a healthy relationship. A relationship where we respect each other. Richard took a wine glass in hand and said quietly, actually, Mrs. Collins, your daughter has already made a big decision. Starting next year, she will become an official partner in my restaurant group. With her company and our brand working together, we plan to expand throughout the West Coast. Carol and Brenda's eyes widened in surprise. Elizabeth confirmed, I'm using part of Dad's trust fund to purchase shares in Richard's business. I'm no longer just a freelance designer. I'm a business owner. Her voice carried a new confidence. If you want a Christmas present, Elizabeth quietly continued, first learn to respect. Respect my time, my effort, and my success. I'm not your convenient wallet. If we're family, we should cherish each other. Carol was silent for a long time. Something seemed to be moving within her. The sound of years of habits and assumptions crumbling was almost audible. I need to think, she finally said. Her voice had lost its usual authoritative tone. Of course, Elizabeth said kindly. Take time to think. I've been doing the same. For years. Richard elegantly stood up and said, I'll bring a special Christmas Eve dessert wine. He quietly left, giving the family space. After a moment of silence, Brenda said in a small voice, I'm sorry. I never thought that you felt that way. Elizabeth looked straight into her sister's eyes. For the first time, there was a color of genuine regret in Brenda's eyes. You know what? Elizabeth said gently. You still have a chance. I can arrange a marketing assistant position at my web design company. If you're serious. Brenda's eyes widened in surprise. Really? But I have no experience. You have talent, Elizabeth said sincerely. The ability to charm people is a valuable skill in marketing. But the condition is that you actually work. Every day, 9 to 5. Carol listened to the conversation in silence. Her worldview was being shaken to its core. Her independent and successful daughter had completely escaped her control. And now, she was beginning to influence not only her own destiny but Brenda's future as well. Richard returned with a special dessert wine and glasses. As he carefully poured the wine, he said, Let's toast to new beginnings. After all, the spirit of Christmas is about rebirth and hope. He gave Elizabeth a special look. It was an expression of deep respect for her courage. And the four raised their glasses. Each face held different emotions, but in the air, there was the possibility of something new being born. In Elizabeth's heart, her father's words echoed. Live your own life. In this moment, she felt she had finally been able to follow those words. 1 year later, during the Christmas season, the opening party for La Maison Marina on San Francisco's waterfront was a huge success. The second restaurant from Richard and Elizabeth's partnership was booked solid even before opening. Elizabeth held a champagne glass and surveyed the new restaurant's interior with satisfaction. Her design sense had expanded into the culinary world, bringing both warmth and sophistication to the entire space. Applying her web design talents to the restaurant's overall branding, her business with Richard was growing rapidly. Cheers, Liz, Richard approached her and raised his glass. We couldn't have come this far without your vision. She smiled and clinked glasses. To our success. The opening party guests were faces from San Francisco's social and business circles. Elizabeth moved through the venue, exchanging words with staff. She wasn't just an owner, she was also a good confidant for them. Frank's daughter, did the college interview go well? She asked one of the chefs. How was Maria's mother's surgery? She inquired of another waiter. She had not only become Richard's business partner but had also become a central figure in this new family. It had also been a year of significant changes in her relationship with her real family. Her mother Carol and sister Brenda had to face the reality that Elizabeth's financial support had suddenly ceased. Carol gave up her golf club membership and moved to a more modest apartment. Brenda eventually accepted Elizabeth's offer and began working as an intern at her web design company. It was difficult at first. Brenda struggled even to arrive on time and took time to learn the basics of the job. But surprisingly, she gradually began to show talent in customer relations. Her social skills and ability to charm people were very helpful in building relationships with clients. Elizabeth stepped away from the hustle of the opening party and stood by the window. The night view of San Francisco Bay spread before her. Her cell phone vibrated. An email had arrived. When she opened it, it was a short message from her mother. Dear Liz. Congratulations on the opening of your new restaurant. Brenda tells me it's a wonderful place. I've been thinking for a long time. Everything you said on Christmas Eve was right. I've been using you for my own convenience all along. As a mother, I'm ashamed. Your father was always right. You have a special talent. Please forgive me for not recognizing it and supporting you. If you're willing, would you invite me to lunch next week? Brenda has grown so much. Thanks to you. With love, Mom. Elizabeth took a deep breath. A year ago, she would have immediately jumped in and said everything is fine. But now it was different. She knew her worth and had learned to draw boundaries. She replied briefly. Thank you for the email. Let's meet at the cafe on Market Street at 12 on Tuesday. We have a lot to talk about. With love, Liz. She put her smartphone back in her bag and returned to the party. Richard found her and approached with a smile. Something good happened, it seems, he said. You have such a peaceful expression. Elizabeth smiled. A new chapter with my family is about to begin. He nodded. Family is complicated. But in the end, it's what shapes us. Yes, Elizabeth said. But we're not just shaped, we can also create new shapes ourselves. The restaurant lights illuminated her face, revealing a different woman than a year ago. A woman full of confidence, knowing her worth, and above all, living her own life. That night, Elizabeth stood before the Christmas tree and smiled at her father's photo. Dad, I've kept your words. I'm living my own life. Outside the window, snow had begun to fall on San Francisco night. It was a rare sight. As if blessing a new beginning.